I wake up in the morning or in the moment, and pixels or syllables arrange themselves into images, and I realize it was my interaction with the raw material of the world that begat these things that are variably forlorn or yearning. I look or I read aloud or in my head, and I am simultaneously always a fresh viewer, even as I inhabit the psychic and bodily space that knows this thing from the anterior. I watch my work with you like a teenager showing a friend their favorite movie for the first time, glancing at your face every time a good part is about to happen, in anticipation, fear. When you're disappointed, I am too. Perhaps I've ruined it for you. I may still be able to separate art from life if we treat these as nouns and not as verbs, which I actually don't want to do at all, really. Maybe I'll regret it one day, possibly soon. But isn't that what this is all about? My work isn't about anything. It is the product of a process that can only be interpreted as a story if I string the interstices along linearly. I'm interested in a lot of things, but 98% of that will never appear here. Taking something from an unknown unknown to a known known instantaneously, a series of out-of-body experiences. Getting hung up on something when I feel slouched over it. Plugged into the world, a node in a logical data space, physical location is irrelevant. Or it is, I'm not. Everything feels more real when it cools, this quality increasing commensurately with the downward spiral to 0 degrees Kelvin. Energetic unavailability. Space. Tighten things up, bring them in closer proximity, and they begin to move again. The process of compression is one of making something hot enough to melt its own edges before it's flash frozen and contained. It's important to notice that this process must always be artificial, a contrivance, except in the case of the ultimate heat death of the universe, from which a return is unlikely. I want to know what I'm going to forget before I forget it. I don't want to put things into the world unless they're doomed or someone asks nicely. I'll make the quick decision short and the slow decision long. Consider that I'm an opportunist. Gift me with the negative connotations, or not. Your call. The world is a mess of particulars, and when I digest them, I only do it partially and then throw them up, preferably into your mouths, and I apologize for the digestive fluids that are mixed in there. The traces of this system that you can never experience directly except through evisceration, which defeats the purpose anyway. Like in the Tupperware aisle at Target, there are so many containers, materials with which to fashion them, sizes, prices, depending on your need and what you're willing to pay. But when you have maybe $40 till next week and you still need food, you learn to be frugal. I like to cook. I know recipes, but when they get old or redundant or have consumed them enough for a recess from them to prompt future nostalgia through a sensory reintroduction, I can change them, or throw some new things together. Obviously, you have to consume in order to excrete, but this should never be about consuming only in order to produce things. The thing desired separately from the desire to make something, needed on its own terms. My work never feels good when it stems out of a desire to make it. Obviously, food is needed in order to survive, but that doesn't stop people from trying to enjoy it. And using the bathroom as a result of this is usually considered ancillary at best, not talked about in polite company. There are no formulas, and there are only rules and structures which I have self-imposed, in order that at least one thing might stay rigid, fixed, something for everything else to move around, the mooring that I might eventually find myself tangled up in regardless. And that's the thing about water, is it's more or less like air. To switch out the hydrogen for nitrogen, consider that traces are everywhere and not just in the less than corporeal. Air doesn't carry dust, it is dust. If my work appears to be uttering a definitive sentence, I urge you to imagine it not speaking at all, or rambling on to the point of near incoherence. But to be honest, works of art don't think or speak, but I'm not totally convinced that they don't act. So if you sit for a while and see a picture walk away, find me and let me know what direction it sauntered off in. Pictures don't have layers. Pictures are like pools with an end deep enough that you could drown in it if you can't at least dog paddle. There are some steps on the shallow end, perhaps a ladder or two, definitely a diving board with an indefinite height, maybe even a slide. I'm not responsible for a belly flop. Surface tension. I make messes and I clean up messes, depending on how I find things and if they need to be found again differently. Things should always be approached on a case-by-case basis. The studio is a space that has physical location, not a no place. Utopias are impossible. The studio is a rest stop in Michigan, State Street in Madison or Chicago, the desert in Lucin, Utah, only a few paces from the sun tunnels. My mother's garage in Pewaukee, Wisconsin, or the space only 20 miles from there, I rented for 5 months but inhabited for maybe 2. The studio is an inside-out sock. Self-help isn't self-help if someone is telling you how to do it. It's easy to suffocate in anything you photograph too much. I trust a container made of plastic more than one made of glass. I once read a quote that said, if you want to know what someone fears losing, watch what they photograph, which is bullshit. It's what they know they'll lose. Instances where loss is explicit. The act of photographing is to preemptively lose the thing. The more you photograph, the more it drowns in noise, regardless of the grain. In fact, a harsher one may sand down the surface quicker. Let this loss be lost. If I talk fast enough, you'll only hear the important parts and save me from the pain of neurotic and endless editing. Words need to congeal while images need to ferment. What do I want the work to do? It can do whatever it wants. It has autonomy, even if its proclivities, the spectrum of things it might do, is influenced by me, its progenitor. You don't know me that well. You have not yet had the time to misunderstand me comfortably, to lie down in the relative presumption of perceived mannerisms. There's always something to work on, and this is reassuring. Even when I'm too depressed or anxious to work on anything, this is something to be worked on. There are always decisions to be made. I'm trying to make the ones that will allow me to make fewer later. I like to sit with things without talking. Doing this for a certain period of time almost always yields positive results. When there is no one else to talk to, no other to confer with, the best option is to create something and then wait long enough for you to become many different persons that can all weigh in on it. This might occasionally take a year or more. But if the output is consistent, there will nonetheless be new products. Aged goods still come on the market at a constant pace. I can't tell stories because they feel like a lie. It's about plotting a series of points without ever letting any of them become a line. Progression by way of description always makes me think, just choose one. I either care about the schematic of the plot or the description of the scene, never both at once. I feel that rigor usually refers to a kind of honing in, a narrowing of scope in an attempt to have something better or more erudite to say. But why can't it be about spreading out, getting towards an idea by moving away from it in all directions simultaneously, like when my first-year drawing professor in undergrad told the class not to draw the object, but to draw the space around it. Although at that time I honestly didn't know what he was talking about, and I guess I still don't, except by way of this tenuous analogy. Balance implies movement. Movement implies entropy. Entropy contains the possibility of moving forward through its own decay, if for a limited time, but this creates urgency. No one feels voyeuristic when they look at a picture, because a picture can hardly function as a window, and if it could and there was nothing there to necessitate your glance being furtive, what does it matter? The proximity of a surface isn't a concealment if you know how to meet things on it. It's important to learn how to walk. This protracted and repetitive process by which I fall with relative grace, catch myself and move forward over divergent terrain, understanding distance as something fixed, understanding movement as something that can happen side to side, forward, diagonally, or in all directions as if I'm on the Discovery 1. Understanding what I ask you when I ask you to meet me in the middle, on foot. There are many places for leftovers to go. In a trash bin, refrigerator, freezer, compost heap, another mouth, down a drain. All in all, they will eventually be consumed. The earth and every seemingly discrete thing on it eats just as much as, if not more than, things with mouths. Circling the drain without going down it is a process of getting close enough to it to be afraid, and far enough away to long for that. The orbit is not nearly elliptical. Images are made, their purpose is forgotten. Words are used to reinterpret them, aid them. Images illustrate this, ad infinitum. It's useless to consider one didactic and the other magical. Anybody is an abyss. Everybody is presumptive. This isn't. I'm not here to make guesses, educated or otherwise. Figure ground, figure, ground to stand on. Lost ground, found ground. The subject does not belong to the world, but is a limit to the world. A balloon shows no signs of popping until it does. There can no longer be any digging down through the sediment, just adding new layers. To try to dig out the fossils of meaning is to deny the ground the space for trees. Humans are schematics, trees just are what they are. Humans rebuild the ship of Theseus. Trees provide the lumber. When I drink my coffee, I have faith that the lid will not unhinge during my drinking it, spilling coffee on my face, shirt, possibly other things. When I fall asleep, I lack the faith that I will open my eyelids to the small amount of light seeping under my bandana blindfold due to my bastard nose lifting it up just enough, not getting it to fully cling to all of my skin and my hair. But when I do wake up in the morning or in the moment, and pixels and syllables have arranged themselves in images, I realize the deadpan is just about making me realize the pan was ever alive in the first place. The lid never really comes off, opens. Never can because it always already is. Like continually waking up into a new dream. Always away. departures and returns. I could go anywhere I've ever been in my entire life, and I will have returned. I am always away, always already back.